Hello, it's Mike Pangia, and today we're going to make risotto. Now, risotto is a traditional Italian rice. It's made with arborio rice, which is a little different from your regular long grain rices. It's a shorter grain and it's more rounded. It's short and fat, like some of us. But at any rate, we're going to make risotto. Risotto, it is flavored, even in the simple version that I'm going to work with you today on. It's flavorful, but more interesting than the flavors are the textures. It's got a firmness to the bite, yet it's soft inside. It's a very interesting texture. Now, the version I'm going to make today is a plain risotto. Not to say it doesn't have a lot of subtle flavors to it, but it's plain, and you could add a lot of things to it. It's like a blank canvas. You could put different chopped vegetables in it. You could put bits of sausage meat. You could put ground beef. You could put a lot of different things in it, which we are not going to do today. We're going to make a very plain one. I have kind of a selfish motive in wanting to make a plain one, and that is in my next video that I put together, I'm going to show you how to make arancini, which will use some of the risotto that we make today as the main ingredient. Here are the ingredients you'll need to make a basic risotto. 2 shallots diced, 4 cloves of garlic minced, a tablespoon of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter, 4 cups of chicken broth, 1 cup of arborio rice, 1/4 cup of dry white wine, 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and 3 tablespoons of chopped parsley. Here are the steps I use to make a basic risotto. I suggest you print out this page so you'll have it as a reference for when you're actually cooking. We'll start by heating up 4 cups of chicken broth. Now, I like to use the microwave just to save one pot. I can measure and heat it in the same container. So if you have a political, metaphysical, religious, philosophical, moral objection to cooking with a microwave, you can skip this part and do it in a saucepan. You can make your risotto in a large skillet, or you can do what I do, use a Chinese wok, which really lends itself to risotto. To start cooking, I'm going to turn the heat on our wok, medium-low. Start with a tablespoon of butter and about a tablespoon of olive oil. Rotate that around your pan or your wok to coat the bottom well. Then we'll add our 2 shallots, which we've diced. Stir them to get them coated. And we're going to cook until they're tender. Once the shallots have softened, we're ready to add our 4 garlic cloves, which have been minced. We'll stir those in and cook them for about 1 minute. Next, we have 1 cup of arborio rice, which we're going to add and now stir so it gets coated completely with the butter, oil, and etc. that we put in here. Now that the rice is well coated, we're going to add 1/4 cup of our dry white wine. Stir that in, and we're going to Heat it, keep heating it until the wine is absorbed. We can see the wine has been completely absorbed. So it's time to get our chicken broth out and add maybe about a half a cup at a time. And then we're going to stir it until that's absorbed. Then we'll keep repeating the process. We'll add and stir and add and stir, each time stirring it until the broth is completely absorbed by the rice. Now this can get a little bit boring. You've got a lot of stirring to do. It's not complicated, but it's a bit tedious. So why don't you put on some peaceful, soothing, classical music or romantic music, or if you're inclined, even hard rock, whatever makes you happy. So it gives you some distraction while you're patiently stirring and stirring. Here's what it looks like when I say the broth is fully absorbed. You don't see any puddles or wet spots or boiling, sizzling broth. So it's been completely absorbed and we're ready to add some more. You know what to do. Keep stirring. Each time you add more broth, you can turn the heat up just a little bit. And as the broth is mostly absorbed, you can turn the heat down again to prevent sticking. Well, you've done several additions and you're down to just a little bit of chicken broth left, about a quarter of a cup or 69 cc's, thereabouts. And what we're going to do is, once this is absorbed, the last addition that we made, the last big addition that we made, we're going to add that last little bit of chicken broth and 3 tablespoons of chopped parsley. I think we're ready to go now. There's the chicken broth. 3 tablespoons of chopped parsley. We'll stir that in. Now this time we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of absorbing all of the chicken broth, we're going to estimate absorbing about half of it. When half of it is done, we're going to add our grated cheese and turn off the heat, stir it up, and we'll be done. So let's keep an eye on it and see if we can do a good estimate of half of the chicken broth being absorbed. I want to get rid of almost all of the liquid and leave just a little bit here. I'd rather make it a little on the dry side than too soupy, and we're getting there. I'm calling that done, so I'm ready to add about 1 cup of Parmigiana cheese just grated. Stir that in, turn off the heat. And we're done. Now, I used unsalted butter and I used low sodium chicken broth, so I can virtually guarantee that we need some salt. So I've got my tasting spoons next to the stove, as you know by now, and I'm going to add a little salt before I even taste it because it has no salt at all. Let's put a little. Little salt in. And stir it up. Let's see what we've got here. I would call it good. You know, the Parmigiana cheese has some salt in it. With the salt I've added, it's salty enough. Of course, make it to your own taste, and everyone will be happy. Well, there you have it. It's a classic but plain risotto. You can dress it up. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You could put peas in it. You could put ground beef in it. You could put little pieces of sausage in it. There are lots of things you can do with risotto to make it almost a main dish by itself. But primarily it's a side. It's a side to a protein. It'd be great with a fish or a steak or any other protein dish you have. A small spoonful. It's as heavy as a rice can be. It's got as much broth stuffed into those little grains as we could get into them. So it's interesting that that has softened the inside but left them with a little al dente feeling, a little bit firm on the outside, soft on the inside. Very interesting stuff. Now, I want to make sure that you make some because we're going to need it next week for the next adventure I'm going to have. We're going to make arancini, which is a deep fried rice ball stuffed with interesting stuff. And the basis of it is this risotto that we made today. Do I have to remind you again after so many times? If you haven't subscribed and you're being a freeloader, you're watching my videos without paying the piper, payment is that subscribe button. That's what I'd like you to do, what I'm asking you to do. I'm almost begging you to do. Please subscribe if you haven't done it already. You can also bring a smile to my face if you give me a like and some kind of favorable comments. Doesn't have to be favorable. If it's unfavorable, you should still tell me. Tell me whatever you like. Give me your suggestions. Give me ideas, critique, whatever you like in the comments. I love to get them and I read them. I respond to everyone. Well, thanks again for watching. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Make some risotto so we'll have it available to use in my next recipe. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.